The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now logged into WarUp on the WPIAL, featuring your hosts Greg Warnock and Jeff Upson. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome into WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock, Jeff Upson with you here, getting you set before the holidays get underway. Jeff, are you ready? You ready for Christmas?
Yeah, I'm ready. You
got all your gifts bought?
No.
Are you a last-minute shopper?
No, I'm a procrastinator.
Okay.
So, that's a difference. There's a difference between the two.
Is there?
Yeah, there definitely is. I only have one gift to get. That's it.
Okay.
Left.
Is it your wife's?
No.
Okay.
No. We're not doing gifts. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because you had the wedding.
We had
this
the
year.
wedding, yeah.
Yeah, wedding and then the honeymoon, so you guys have had a lot of adventures this year.
We have.
Well, that's definitely good. I'm also trying to make sure to get ready here as we get ready for the holiday season, but we still have some wrestling to talk about. And then we also got the Powerade coming up in the next week, so we got a lot of wrestling action coming your way. But we had our first subsection wrestling matches happen this past week, and we'll start right away in AAA. Subsection 1A, Franklin Regional, Kiski, and Plum all won this week. They all moved to 1-0. A couple of good matches, though. Franklin Regional, Penn Trafford, I think, was probably the biggest one, and Franklin Regional wins by 10, 43-33.
Yeah, there was some good matchups in that bout between Franklin Regional and Penn Trafford, but I kind of thought that things would go Franklin Regional's way, and they did. So it was a good early round matchup for them.
Yeah, and they got the bonus points where they expected them to with some of their studs for Franklin Regional. The other one, Kiski, a little bit tighter, I would say. I mean, we thought Vince DiAugustine would make a difference in Norwin, and he kept it close with Kiski. 40-27 was the win for Kiski there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit closer than you might expect, but I mean, it was, again, Norwin's got some good guys, so I wouldn't look at them and say, well, Kiski should have rolled over them. But I thought maybe it would be a little bit more lopsided, so it just goes to show that it doesn't really matter what we think.
Right. I mean, I think Kiski is still without a couple of guys. They do forfeit at 106 as an example there. 1B, the winners there were Greensburg, Salem, Hempfield, and Latrobe. Nothing too surprising in that one. Subsection 2A, Thomas Jefferson was a winner. Also, Albert Gallatin was a winner. They defeat Bell Vernon 45-30. Now, Bell Vernon obviously has had a lot of change over these last few years, but Bell Vernon's so strong. It's just shocking to see them lose in week one.
Yeah, and they're hurting for some bodies, I think, if you look at their roster, and they're definitely down in terms of numbers, so that never helps.
Yeah, they gave up 5 forfeits in that match to fall in week one against Albert Gallatin. Subsection 2B, winners there, Mount Lebanon, Peters Township, and Upper St. Clair. 3A, the winners there were Seneca Valley, Mars, and Butler. 3B, the winners there were Indiana, North Allegheny, and Hampton. 4A, the winners there, Cannon McMillan and West Allegheny, and 4B, the winners there, Trinity and Waynesburg. Not really anything notable in any of their matches. In Class AA, in Section 1, some results there. Burgestown over South Park, and Fort Cherry over Chartiers Houston, so they're both at 1-0. And in 1B, only one match recorded. McGuffey is 1-0 in their subsection. 2A, Laurel, Freedom, and Elwood City all at 1-0. 2B, Keystone Oaks, Quaker Valley, and Southside all at 1-0. And I think the big one that was a surprise to me, Jeff, Keystone Oaks over Hopewell, 39-31. Hopewell was one of those teams coming down from AAA, and we thought, okay, they could be a difference maker because of the fact they're coming down, and they lose to Keystone Oaks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. I mean, we look at them and say, well, yeah, they've been in AAA. They're a pretty deep team. They have some guys at each weight. But yeah, the Keystone Oaks, remember they're a storied program as well. They have some good guys in their lineage there.
Yeah, Keystone Oaks gave 2 forfeits. One ended up being a double forfeit, the other to Jacob Ely, so that kind of worked out for Keystone Oaks. But Hopewell ended up giving 3 forfeits plus the double forfeit, and that's what really hurt Hopewell to fall in that match. Subsection 3A, Burrell, Summit Academy, and Valley were all at 1-0, and 3B, Derry, Mount Pleasant, and Elizabeth Forward all at 1-0. There were some close matches, though, in 3B, which we talked about being very competitive. Elizabeth Forward over Southmoreland, 37-35. And then the other match was actually a tie. Mount Pleasant and Fraser, 36-36. But it was Mount Pleasant that won on a tiebreaker. We talked about the studs that Mount Pleasant has. They have the young guys coming up. They have a couple guys coming back, but they just give up a lot of forfeits.
They have a lot of forfeits, and they're going to be their Achilles heel this season because they have some solid guys in there, young guys too. However, if you're giving up those forfeits, it's not going to matter. 6
forfeits for Fraser. That's what they won all their matches on. One of those was the Thane Lawrence. But 6 forfeits that Mount Pleasant gave to Fraser, and then there were 2 double forfeits in this match as well. So all the matches were won by Mount Pleasant, but they just don't have enough kids at those weights.
Right.
So that's what is going on from the week 1 of the subsection wrestling action, and we'll talk about more of the week 2 action here coming up, the wrestling getting underway here this week. Some tournaments, some notable results. The big one that we had a good amount of coverage on was King of the Mountain tournament. And Jeff, you were there. Before we break down weight by weight, what were some of your oversights overall on it?
Yeah, it was a great tournament as per usual. It normally is, and this year was no different. There were some weights that were a lot tougher than others this year. In years past, they've had teams like Bethlehem Catholic there, some other teams from out east. This year, there was a lot of talent there, and I liked it because there was a lot of mixture between AA and AAA schools there. You had schools like Muncie, Forest Hills there, Burrell, obviously, but then you had those AAA teams like Seneca Valley, Franklin Regional there. So it was nice to see the mixture of AAA and AA, but a lot of good wrestling. I actually left early Friday to go to Penn State, Arizona State, so I didn't get to see a lot of wrestling on Friday, but Saturday was really the quarterfinals and the semifinals were really fun to watch.
Let's start off at 106 pounds. Your champion at 106 at King of the Mountain was Carter Dybert, Franklin Regional.
Yeah, and Carter had an amazing tournament. In fact, he went unscored upon in this. His closest match was in the finals when he won 12-0. So, yeah, Carter had a heck of a tournament. The other WPIAL place winner was Hunter Swedish from Seneca Valley. Swedish was in there because Chapel and Herrera Rondon had bumped up, which we'll talk about with head coach Kevin Wildrick when we have him on, I'm sure. But, yeah, it was a really good showing for Carter. Carter's one of the toughest guys in the state.
113 pounds. Your champion was Dylan Chappell of Seneca Valley. Also coming in third was Finn Sullivan of Franklin Regional. So Finn Sullivan had a heck of a tournament. You could talk a little bit about it, but he knocks off the top seed, Kyle Waterman of Council Rock South. He pins him in the round of 16. He ends up losing to Dylan Chappell 5-1 in the semifinals, but then he knocks off another guy who had a great tournament, Jackson Arrington of Forest Hills. He beats him in the third and fourth place match. So Chappell gets the championship, but Sullivan, a guy we talked about last week, makes his name known.
Finn was the most impressive wrestler that I saw there that weekend, hands down. If there was one person I walked away and said, man, I'm really impressed, it was Finn Sullivan. The kid can flat out wrestle. He's great from top. He's really good from neutral. Just needs to clean a few things up with this finish. He was in on Dylan Chappell's legs probably about 8 times. And he was and Chappell was very lucky to win that bout. Finn was very close to securing a takedown in overtime. But and just for the way he wrestled Waterman, I mean, a guy who's a returning state medalist, top seed, highly ranked, Finn just came out and just bullied him. I mean, he really did. He just bullied him. He wasn't a fluke. He was beating him and then got the fall. And then to top it off, he's not content with that. He comes back and finishes in third. He beats Jackson Arrington, another stud freshman, and he kind of destroys him. So if he can stay healthy, and I say that because his older brother Gus could not stay healthy, but if Finn can stay healthy, he's going to be very, very dangerous. I can't say enough about how impressed I was with the way he wrestled throughout the last 2 days at King of the Mountain.
And for Chappell, the way he wrestled too, going up a weight class, solid as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Dylan, I was 106 to 113 is not, it's not a small jump, right? And I don't think he was a fully, especially with the descent plan, I doubt he was a full 113 pounder. And I know he was coming off a week when he was sick, right? He was a little under the weather, so it's hard to cut weight when you're not feeling well. So for him to come out and grind out those wins, that was a huge confidence boost for him, especially after not placing at the Ironman. So going up a weight here at King of Mountain, coming away with the championship, definitely a good feeling for him.
His teammate, Alejandro Herrera-Rondon, also going up a weight class, and he ends up finishing in first place at 120 pounds, and what is a very deep weight class at 120. Garrett Thompson of Franklin Regional also finishing in 8th place here.
Yeah, and Ali had a good tournament. His first couple matches, I don't think he really opened up as much. He had a couple regular decisions. In fact, he won 2-0 in the quarterfinals, which I was kind of surprised by. I watched the match, and he just was having a hard time getting to his offense. But he really turned that up in the semifinals, beating Max Mendez 12-0. And then in the finals, let's not forget the guy who wrestled in finals is a returning state runner-up, Killen Delaney from Westchester Henderson. He was a state finals last year, losing to Ryan Sullivan, and Ali came out and really took it to him on his feet, especially. So he beat him 6-0. Again, like Dylan, it's good to see him up a weight and still beating some quality kids in a really deep weight class.
126 pounds. Your champion was from Burrell, Ian Oswalt. He ends up winning the title 2-1 over Will Betancourt in the finals of this one.
Yeah, and Ian, I think 126 in general, I think about 90% of these matches all went to ultimate tiebreaker. It seemed like, especially watching Betancourt wrestle, he's always in a tiebreaker match, and he had one with Shane Hansen Ashworth. But Ian Oswalt, definitely a good win for him. Being a sophomore, going against a junior, very tightly contested bout. But Ian really, he looked good in that finals match and able to grind it out for a win. So it's always nice to see.
Chan Shearer of Seneca Valley finishing in 6th place in this weight class as well. 132 pounds. Colton Camacho of Franklin Regional bounces back. He ends up being your champion. Jason Geyer of Seneca Valley finishes in 3rd place as well.
Yeah, and this was another weight class where you said, obviously you had one of those top guys in Colton Camacho, and not saying you thought you was going to breeze through it, but it wasn't nearly as deep as some of those other weight classes. And, he did what he does, right? He comes out and he wins, and he didn't look like he lost a beat, so to say.
138 pounds, your champion from Franklin Regional, Mason Spears. He beats Drew Vlasnik of Seneca Valley in the final 6-5. Anthony Corrado of Burrell finishing in 3rd place. So all WPIAL here at 138.
Yeah, and this is actually an interesting weight because Mason Spears came from the unseeded position to win this. And it's interesting because folks would say, well, man, he's got to be OW. He won it from an unseeded position. I disagree because when I saw these brackets, I 100% said Mason Spears is going to win this weight class. I mean, it was just he was not seeded he wasn't seeded well. Right. In fact, he wasn't seeded. But it was just a weight where I thought it was his to lose. So I was not surprised whatsoever. Not saying the depth of this weight was not there because, of course, AJ Corrado's there. You had some other guys, quality guys from Council Rock South and Owen J. Roberts. However, Mason Spears, the way he's been wrestling the last couple of weeks, especially when we saw him at the Surge, not surprised at all for him to come away with the championship. Drew Vlasnik as well. Not surprised to see him in the finals. I think those guys are probably going to see each other again. So it was kind of a preview to see what we're going to see probably down the road.
Big matchup in the finals at 145. Colin Myers of Boiling Springs taking on Nick Coy of Penn Trafford, and Myers was your champion 5-3 in this one. A big weight class too. Kenny Kaiser here, Eric Gibson, the freshman phenom from Forest Hills. All in this weight class. Antonio Emilio from Seneca Valley finishes in 7th place, but Nick Coy coming out as a 2nd place finisher.
Yeah, and this was a tough one to watch because the WPIAL was going for 7 straight champions here, right? They had won it all the way up until 138, 145. Nick Coy comes out, and he's winning this match. Colin Myers won it in the last 20 seconds. So definitely a tough way for Nick Coy to go down. Nick Coy survived a brutal semifinals match with Kenny Kaiser, 4-3. That one was ultimate tiebreaker, and it was, those two, I said to myself afterwards, I was like, I don't think Nick's going to be able to bounce back from that because he was exhausted after that. Rightfully so. Those guys fought it out. But he came out and really impressed me against Colin Myers, who's a returning state runner-up. So, I was impressed with Coy. I think he has a lot to grow from this tournament.
He ended up wrestling Emilio in the quarterfinals. He knocked him off 5-1 to get to the semis at that point. 152 pounds. Nick Montalbano of Seneca Valley, he finishes as a runner-up. Noah Linderman of Burrell finishes in 6th place.
Yeah, Nick had a nice tournament. He came out with the 2nd place finish. I know he probably wishes he came away with that championship over Eric Wolshan, but still a really good tournament for him nonetheless. And then Noah Linderman, really impressed with the way he wrestled, coming away with the 6th place finish. But he battled some pretty tough guys to come away with that 6th place finish.
160 pounds. Tony Zona of Penn Trafford, your lone medalist, he finishes in 7th place. At 170 pounds, your 3rd place finisher, Austin Malee of Burrell, he has a nice tournament to finish as a 3rd place finisher.
Yeah, and definitely a guy who he had a tough semifinal match with a freshman, Matt Collegiesi from Council Rock South, who really impressed me. He actually came away with the championship, but Austin, he still battled tough to come back for the 3rd place finish.
At 182 pounds was the match of the night, right? Jared Gill and Julian Goring, but for the WPIAL, no placers in the top 8.
Yeah, Jared McGill and Julian Goring was definitely one of the highlights of the weekend, but unfortunately, like you said, no WPIAL guys were then there.
At 195 pounds, WPIAL had 1 place finisher, and Davin Bame of Seneca Valley, he finishes in 7th, and at 220 and 285 pounds, WPIAL does not get a wrestler in the top 8.
And Greg, when you look at the team scoring here, the WPIAL had 3 teams that finished in the top 10. Burrell came away with 117 points for 7th place. Franklin Regional, with only 7 guys, they only had 7 guys here at the King of Mountain. They finished in 5th place with 123 points. And Seneca Valley, they were in a tight race with Council Rock South throughout the weekend. They finished in 2nd place with 189 points.
And to talk about that and more, we will have Kevin Wildrick of Seneca Valley joining us. Joining us now on the show is Seneca Valley head coach Kevin Wildrick. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, Kevin, you guys just wrapped up your weekend at King of the Mountain. How did you think it went for you? Are you happy with how things turned out this past weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. You always look at the parts of matches and parts of the day and see where you could have done things better, but overall, I'm happy with the performance of the team, as a whole. At the weekend, it's a tough tournament that, only in our 4th year being there, we've kind of climbed up the team point standings and, tried to get ourselves in contention to, try to take a title there. So it was a good time being a part of that this weekend for sure.
Your light guys, Dylan Chappell and Alejandro Herrera, decided to bump up each a weight class. Were they comfortable with the higher weights?
Yeah, I think so. They were both bumped up, but they weren't necessarily, fully bumped up to the joys of the weight loss system. It was just a kind of a decision with Ironman being so early and such a grind of a tournament. I felt they needed a little bit of a break, and felt they were both tough enough to make that change for the weekend.
And Coach, talk about Hunter Swedish. He came in and finished 7th place at 106 pounds, a guy who, was battling for a spot on the team, but he comes out, he really impressed me coming out on the podium.
Hey, absolutely. From the first dual meet that we used him at 106 this year, I was just kind of blown away. You see him wrestle in the practice room, and that's one thing, but to see him, go toe-to-toe with somebody else from an opposing team, his growth and development over the last few years, from junior high up, he's been putting the time in, and it's obviously showing now.
And you finished 2nd as a team. Council Rock South was the champion, but you guys were in a pretty tight battle. talk about just that atmosphere that you felt with the team, knowing, hey guys, we could potentially win this tournament. Did you feel like the guys were pretty excited about something like that?
Absolutely, because you never know at that tournament necessarily where all the wrestlers are with the classroom and kids going up and down. And but for our team and what we had going on, I felt like most of the kids, pretty much everybody was at the edge of each mat. If we had two guys going, they were kind of split between the two different mats. Getting into it and cheering on our guys. Right down to the big one was Davin Beam. There was a lot of excitement around him punching his ticket to place there at the tournament. He's been working hard, and all the guys were super excited to see him get to that point.
Now, Coach, I can remember, I think, last year when we talked, you said something like, hey, keep this on the down low. Seneca Valley's good. It's no secret now, right? It's no secret, especially after last year's postseason. The cat's out of the bag in this sense. How is your team, and how are you dealing with that sort of added pressure, or maybe that added confidence that the team has, especially after last year, and especially after returning so many of those starters?
It's definitely a different situation to keep everybody grounded and to keep them working hard. But we have such a good group of guys that it's really not that tough with them. Just other than making sure we're not overlooking anybody, making sure everybody's doing the little things, weight management, stuff like that, not letting it get out of control. And keeping them kind of focused on the small details, I think, is the important thing right now. The room is definitely different than the years past of having to go through very specific technique, and now you're focused on just kind of like bigger picture things with that. And they've handled it great, and we keep telling them we haven't done anything yet. So we want to keep pushing and keep doing the best we can.
I guess one spot to make a mark on this season will be at the Quad Meet coming up on Friday. Talk a little bit about that and how this all came about, because we're super excited for it on Friday.
I guess from our performance last year, and we were at the WPIAL individual tournament last year. It was kind of approached to us if we were interested in doing a quad like this. And I felt it'd be a great opportunity. We don't normally in our regular season see, most of these teams. We traditionally wrestled Hempfield like late February, one of those kind of filler matches while everybody's at Team States. That we don't want to have that anymore at this point. But I guess shifts to the gears, and it's exciting just to be in the mix with these guys. To get the chance to wrestle Kiski, wrestle Hempfield this early in the season, kind of see where everybody's at. I have the utmost respect for both programs, including Kanamack will be there wrestling, two matches that night too. So it's exciting to have this match coming up on Friday for sure.
Do you wish there was a way you could have wrestled Kanamack as well?
Yeah, and I understand obviously you have the point system and you're kind of restricted to that, and then you have two of them in the same section, so they didn't want to wrestle again that night. So I think that would have been nice too. After wrestling them twice last year and getting a little bit closer on the second one, you always want that next shot, to wrestle them again. So, that would have been nice also, but I don't think any of the teams had the types of points that would, competition points to make that about possible.
And then, Coach, you turn right back around, and you had Ironman, you had King of the Mountain, now you have the quad, and then it's Powerade, right? So talk about a December. That's a really brutal December. Talk about how the teams or how you're going to try to keep that team grounded and keep them healthy.
It's a balance, and luckily we have some depth in some different weight classes. So when we can mix guys in and out at different dual meets and give guys a break, we will. We don't want to forget about our section opponents and overlook them. We have Butler tomorrow that we need to go in and not overlook them and take care of business. If there's weight classes and spots we can mix guys in, we will, just to keep everybody kind of fresh. And I think that was partly the bump up theory too with the lighter weight guys. Our December we created kind of as one of those. I looked at other teams doing it, years ago when I was first at Seneca, and I thought, man, I would never do that. That's crazy. And then I guess once you get that room of guys and Ironman calls and says, hey, we'd really like you guys to come out, you kind of make it happen. And I guess the quad was kind of the icing on the cake to not give us any downtime in December at all, just to keep plugging.
And now, how does that affect you as a head coach? Because, like you said, I mean, that was all kind of, like you said, new in a sense, and you're in a really unique position now, especially being from like out of state. So, is this something that did you expect this to kind of transpire the way it has? And you know, if so, like, is this a good stepping stone for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, knowing when I took over at Seneca, the numbers and the support I kind of had around the program, you know, obviously I'm only one person, so there's, you know, so many coaches and parents that have put in the time with the kids from the youth to build the numbers up and bring those kids up, and you know, Joe with OMP right in town and getting the numbers up there and giving those guys an outlet to get that extra work in that wanna excel that way. You know, has been a huge help. And, you know, I guess being from out of state is definitely different. I mean, I was joking when I first was an assistant at NA 9 years ago now, or I mean, I got 15 years ago now, but, you know, when I first took over, I just kind of by dumb luck from student teaching wandered in there. You know, and I was from out of state, and I walked in the wrestling room the first day of the season. I was looking around the room going, boy, I think these guys were pretty good.
What gave it away?
Clueless to Western PA wrestling, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I just had a great mentor with Jamie Kuriosis when I was there, super level-headed, you know, great head coach to learn under, and I think that really prepared me to kind of go into this, and just, like I said, just surrounded myself with great coaches to help me at Seneca, because obviously I'm only one person, and, you know, it takes so many people to move things in the direction we've moved them.
Coach, best of luck this coming weekend as you head into the quad meet, and then also best of luck as you head into Powerade here the following weekend. We really appreciate you joining us here this evening.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
you for
Coach.
all you do.
Thanks. Thanks again to Kevin Wildrick for joining us on the show. Let's now switch gears over to the Panther Holiday Classic. And in that one, the WPIAL started at 106 pounds with Dylan Coy of North Allegheny. He was your champion. Luke Gabig of Mount Pleasant, he finishes in 4th place.
Yeah, and Dylan Coy had a heck of a tournament here, winning a really deep weight class with some really high-end talent, especially from the freshman class. He beat Suds Dubler from Glendale in the finals 2-0. A really solid win for him. So Dylan Coy is undefeated for the season. So I'm really excited about the way he's wrestling, and I'm curious to see how he's going to do, especially in the WPIAL against some of these AAA teams.
At 113 pounds, Nathan Crutelis of Thomas Jefferson finishes in 5th, and Bradley Stepidich of North Allegheny finishing in 7th place.
Yeah, and Nathan, I thought, had a good tournament. He's a guy who was maybe a little bit under the radar last year for TJ, but I think he really can make an impact here for them. And TJ overall, Greg, had a really great tournament, and we'll talk about the team standings, but they I thought, had a great tournament.
120, Max Stediford of North Allegheny finishes in 4th place. Damian George of Mount Pleasant in 7th.
Isn't Damian George a guy we've talked about forever? I feel like,
so.
Is he a 6-year senior here? Because I feel like his name is always popping up. But good tournament by him and Max Stediford, who comes away with a really solid performance, finishing above some top quality like Amon Ol. He finishes in 4th place, so good showing for him.
And we talked about Mount Pleasant and their lack of depth, but they have the studs. We mentioned that in the first show, and I mentioned that we were talking about their team scores a little bit earlier, and you're going to notice that as we talk about these results. Freddie Junko of North Allegheny, finishes in 4th place at 126. Also at 126, Noah Teeters of Mount Pleasant in 7th, and Kyle Bacaizo of Thomas Jefferson in 8th place, or Cale Bacaizo, excuse me.
Yeah, so you had 3 WPIAL guys get on the podium here. And Freddie Junko, I thought, had a really good tournament at 126 pounds, finishing ahead of guys like Liam Logue. Noah Teeters is one of those other freshmen from Mount Pleasant, so it sounded like a broken record. And Cale, all 3 of those guys, I thought, wrestled tough, and this is a tough tournament to place at. I mean, I'm so used to calling it the Sheets Holiday Classic because that's what it was called for many years, but it's the Panther Holiday Classic at Central Cambria, and it's hard to come away with a finish on the podium here. So really good showing by them.
132, no WPIAL wrestlers finish in the top 8. 138, Ian Brandstetter of North Allegheny finishes in 8th place. At 145 pounds for the WPIAL, Brendan Finnerty of Thomas Jefferson, he finishes in 5th place. Also, Matt Ferraro of North Catholic finishes in 7th place.
Yeah, and Brandon Finnery, I thought, had a really solid tournament. He beat Malachi Duval from Penns Valley, twice, actually, and he beat him for 5th place in a weight class where you had some really top-end talent. Caleb Dowling from St. Joe's Catholic, who's a nationally ranked wrestler, Caesar Fountain, Tristan Pugh. So for Brandon to come away with a top 5 finish, really impressive. And as I said, that was kind of the theme here for Thomas Jefferson. I think they're going to be sneaky good.
Yeah, speaking of Thomas Jefferson, they got the top of the podium at 152. Alex Weber, he finishes in 1st place.
Yeah, really impressed with Alex Weber, a guy who's going to Pitt Johnstown in his future, and he came away with a win over Keegan Rothrock from St. Joe's Catholic, 2-0 in the finals there. But another really good showing for that TJ wrestler.
160, Nick Marcinelli of North Allegheny finishes in 4th place at that weight class. 170, John Hoover of North Allegheny finishing in 3rd place. North Allegheny, a good tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And, at 160 pounds, Nick Marcinelli, our college podcast guy, Rob Waltko, said I wasn't giving him enough love in the rankings, so I bumped him up a little bit. And he didn't disappoint, finishing 4th there. And as you said, John Hoover finishing behind Hinson and Brown, 2 high-quality wrestlers. So and beating Cole Sosong in the 3rd place match, really good for him. So as you said, North Allegheny, solid tournament.
182 pounds, Dayton Pitzer of Mount Pleasant. He is your champion. Also in this weight class, Colton Milko of Carlington finishes in 7th place, but Pitzer, the story here. Yeah,
Pitzer. So you have a freshman, right? He's a freshman up at 182 pounds. So that's a rarity in itself, right? Dayton Pitzer comes away with the championship, pins in the finals, and he actually beat Mason McCready from Hollidaysburg, who is a state medalist. Keep in mind, we're talking about a freshman, and Eric Knopfsnyder, our partner, talked. He was at the Panther Holiday Classic, and he said that was one of the most impressive things that he saw was Dayton Pitzer coming away with that championship.
195 pounds, Max Shaw of Thomas Jefferson comes away with the title.
Yeah, and this was one of the first times we saw him this season. He hadn't been in the lineup in the first weekend of competition, but Max Shaw up at 195 pounds. So obviously he's put on some weight. But he comes away and beats a really tough Colby Franklin, who's a freshman, beats him 10-5. Colby Franklin is a guy who finished at Ironman in the top 8. He is nationally ranked. He's highly regarded, and Max Shaw says not so fast, and really just beats him pretty good. Beats him 10-5. So Max Shaw, if he stays at 95, I think he could be a threat here.
I mean, he was always thick last year as far as just muscular and tough, and to see him come out here again at 195, we'll see if. Do you think he might go down at all?
Well, I would not suggest it, considering the logjam at 82. That is like Carter Strachey, Luke Stout, Scott Joel. I mean, if I'm him, I'm staying up at 95, being, not worried about cutting weight and probably having a better chance to finish on top of the podium in Hershey.
220 pounds, no WPIAL wrestlers in the top 8. 285 pounds, Dave Schufert of Valley. He finishes in 2nd place.
Yeah, and I was really surprised. I mean, not really surprised, but I was somewhat taken aback by the fact that Raymond Christus from Dallastown beat Dave Schubert in the finals 4-1. Christus is a solid wrestler, but Schubert he's so big, he's so tough, so it's rather take these losses now than down the road. So
right. As far as the team goes, we mentioned North Allegheny had a great showing, and they end up winning the team title with 163 points. Thomas Jefferson finishes in 6th place with 139.5. We mentioned Mount Pleasant and just all the results they had there. You think about all the wrestlers that they have and the lack thereof, they still finish in the top 15, finishing in 15th place.
Yeah, can just imagine if they actually had a full team. Yeah, they would be of the Mount Pleasant of past.
Also this past weekend, the Armstrong Classic, and that was dominated by the Cavaliers of Kiski area. Yeah,
Kiski area just kind of blew through the competition here, which wasn't a surprise. And, man, I'm excited to see them this Friday in what's really going to be an awesome quad meet. And it's almost like, I was joking with some folks, is that you can basically bring the WPIAL Championship and say this is a preview of that. Yeah. These could very well be the top 4 teams that we see in February.
Yeah, you look at if you look at your rankings and where teams may fall. I mean, there's not many other teams you would put in the mix. I think the top three, Kanemak, Kiski, and Seneca Valley, in no special order. Those are really three of the top teams. And Hempfield had such a great season last year, so. Yeah, and then maybe throw Waynesburg into the mix. Maybe you throw
Waynesburg, Collinsville,
or maybe like a Franklin Regional. Maybe, but other than that, I mean, these teams are it.
Yeah, these teams are it, and really excited to see how they all match up. It should be a really fun event. It's Friday at Kanemak, so if you're not doing anything Friday night, you should probably be there. We'll both be there.
Yep,
right.
No doubt about it.
I don't know how you can miss it. To tell you the truth,
if you like dual meets, this is it.
This is it, right?
I mean, definitely a WPIAL preview for sure. The matchups: Kiski and Seneca Valley will wrestle, and Hempfield and Kanemak, and then Hempfield and Seneca Valley and Kanemak and Kiski.
Yeah, and that Kiski versus Seneca Valley match is at 6:00. And Hempfield versus Kanemak is also at 6:00. So really, probably the first one right out of the gate, Kiski area and Seneca Valley. Ton of solid matchups there. I can't say enough about it. And I like these two teams because they match up well. They're strong in sort of different parts of the lineup, right? Kiski's pretty strong in the upper middleweights, and Seneca Valley is really strong down below. So it's really going to be interesting to see where they start, right? Where they start in the match, because that could have a huge difference when you talk about momentum. So, and of course, let's not forget that this is before the 2-pound allowance, right?
Yeah,
so guys
sure.
aren't necessarily, Powerade, yeah, we're going to see guys down at the weights, like 108, 115, those weights. However, this is still before that, so you're less likely to have that juggling, right? When you're talking about shifting of lineups, it's a chess game in a sense, and when you have a chess match, you have less flexibility without that, the 2 pounds. So teams, some may be limited, but really good preview of what's to come.
Yeah, it really is, and for the WPIAL steering committee, I'm sure they're happy to see this, because then they get a good opportunity to get the seeding done without having to say, I think this team's better than the other. But it's totally different. I mean, this matchup as opposed to what's going to happen at the end of January, beginning of February, because we remember talking to Chris Heater about this last year and how the matchups are much different when they wrestled Kanemak in December because of the weight allowance.
Sure, and that's always going to play a factor, but still puts you it has that benchmark, right? And it's good for people like myself who do rankings, especially with the teams. I'm excited to see that. As you mentioned, Hempfield and Seneca Valley is at 7:30. Then Kanemak and Kiski, another marquee matchup, is at 8:00. So, again, Friday night, I don't know why you wouldn't be there.
Right.
It's going to go down at Kanemak High School.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Also, this coming weekend, Beast of the East, Waynesburg, the only WPIAL team there.
Yeah, Waynesburg they have a really young team, so I'm very, very anxious to see how guys like Cole Hammett, Noah Tustin, and of course you have guys, throughout the lineup that can make some noise. Luke Augustine, Colby Morris. There's a lot of guys here that I think are going to do well for them. Trey Howard's a guy who last year had a really breakout performance at the Beast of the East, so if he can replicate that, should be a good tournament overall for them.
And next week we'll be breaking down both the quad meet, as well as we'll get you updated on the standings, and then break down the Beast of the East as well and how Waynesburg did. And then we're previewing Powerade. Can you believe it's almost here? I
cannot believe Powerade is people say I can't believe Christmas is 7 days away or a week away. I can't believe Powerade is a week away.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's sad when my life revolves around.
That is is it 24/7, 365, right?
Yeah.
That's where your mind is all the time.
All the time. I think I have a problem.
Just a little bit.
But
I mean, we don't have time to get into all the different issues you got, but
no, unless you have a couple hours.
Just a couple?
Well,
do you think that's enough time?
It could be longer than that. Although Mark Billett and we spent the time driving from King of Mountain back down to home over the weekend, and we were able to flesh all of these things out. Because remember, he's been involved in wrestling for over 40 years, so
do you think he has just as much of a problem as you do?
No, I have more of a problem than he does, but he just deals with it a lot better than I do. So,
That's good. So do you tell you just go fishing and that's about it?
Well, essentially, and I'm not really good at fishing, so maybe he's going to teach me in the off season. But, man, this is the thick of it, man. I'm excited. King of Mountain was great. Powerade's going to be awesome. The quad's going to be awesome. And, it's going to be a good end of December for us.
Thanks again to Kevin Wildrick of Seneca Valley for joining us, and thanks to each and every one of you for listening in. Make sure you check us out online, PA Power Wrestling. Make sure you check out the rankings, updated every week.
Yep.
And then also continue to check us out for updates, scores, previews. We got a lot of it coming your way.
Yeah, probably follow us on Twitter at PA Power Wrestle. We'll be giving updates through the Quad Meet on Friday via Twitter, so definitely be on there and stay tuned for, again, all your wrestling coverage is papowerwrestling.com. And take a listen to our college podcasts. You know, there's Rob Waltko feels like, they're not doing well enough, so we got to give them a shout out, right?
Especially with all WPIAL guys.
Right.
And doing so well in college right now.
Right.
And everyone listening to this should want to listen to that.
I agree. I don't know why you wouldn't. They're going to talk about Josh Maruka, Josh Shields, Vincenzo Joseph this weekend at Penn State. Probably talk about Mark Hall and Zahid Valencia as well. So should probably give them a listen.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a show you do not want to miss. And make sure you check us out next week. WarUp on the WPIAL. Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in. Have a great Christmas, everyone. We'll talk to you right after the holiday.